finally allow my body to rest. At the time when most would accept sleep, my mind whirs with a million different thoughts. Doubts, regrets, what ifs, worries about an assignment I couldn't finish or words I should have said differently. I dread this time of the day, when I have nothing to distract me from the chronic disappointment that slams into me full force. The facade of a young, independent woman who puts nothing less than 120% into everything disintegrates. It starts out like a dream. Closing my eyes, I submit to the twilight subconscious. The dark forest surrounds me. The shadowy wood houses the depression and anxiety, which approach in the forms of a leopard, a lion, and a wolf. The sneering leopard snarls at me like the educational pressure it represents. The lion bears down on me with my parents' critical eyes, assuring me that if I tell them anything, they will leap at me, pay no attention to my explanations, give my choices no chance, and refuse to listen or support my attempts to grow up on my own. The hellish she-wolf lashes her tail, drooling with the difficult drama emanating from my relationships. I fear her as I fear rejection, that my friend's smiles are lies, and that any man who claims to love me will only use my heart and toss it aside. Through the stasis of this forest, they pursue me and feed from the overflowing fountain of insecurity, threatening to eat me alive. The beasts bring me back to my past, the past that gave birth to them. These are macabre memories of the person I used to be and the persona I hated. Not so long ago, I cried myself to sleep knowing that another day of bullying and torture awaited me. I trusted no one, and I struck out at anyone who approached me. Why should I try to be nice if I would only be spat upon anyway? I didn't care what they thought, I told myself. But the truth was, I spent countless hours sulking in my room, swallowed in self-pity, thinking that even my parents had given up on me, though this wasn't true. Even after we discovered a way to treat this compulsive and impulsive behavior by the time I was in the 5th grade, the damage was done and the bullying continued. Though I never told anyone, I harbored suicidal thoughts. What saved me were the adults in my life, my mentors. They understood more than my peers. They'd been around the block, and they encouraged me. They treated me as a partner instead of a number. This kind of connection, viewing teachers as friends and partners, would affect my relationship with adults in the future. I found that discussions with adults challenged my intellect more than with my shallow classmates, whose only concerns were what was in fashion and being well-liked. Of course, the usual trend was bullying me, picking on the fact that I was a teacher's pet, and blaming every little mistake on me because I was easily provoked. The principal turned a blind eye to the hellish torture going on right in front of her. I threw myself into my studies, the only thing I was good at, and found refuge in my music and academic success. Anxiety always astonished me. I feared disappointing my parents. I craved positive attention to the point where I would change to please different people, and I cried easily when I experienced failure. I was point-blank terrified of failure. It's a flaw I still struggle with. I wrote, I read, I practiced, and my desire to prove myself to everyone else turned into an unhealthy obsession. In the 6th grade, I reached an all-time low. I blamed myself for everything. That was the negative feedback I received, and I began to believe it. You're stupid. You're selfish. You don't belong. You're such a loser, was all I heard. In my preteen impressionable mind, I figured that if everyone else said it, it must be true. My brain wove untrue stories explaining why I was incompetent, why everyone hated me. I wasn't able to look outside my defensive bubble. As a self-defense mechanism, I adopted a brusque personality, responding to cutting comments with witty and side-handed sarcasm. Even now, I prefer to banter, enjoying the company of those who can match me wit for wit. When I started this little thing called Capstone, I knew even before sitting down to think about what I would write, that this would become a psychological roller coaster. We discussed in class what capstones should be, assessed examples, and laughed about crapstones, and sob stories that got the presenter and the audience nowhere. A capstone needed to teach something, needed to provoke a complete catharsis. This exploration into the person I am and am becoming revealed to me that I desperately needed to recap my life in order to pinpoint where my insecurities came from for the first time in 18 years and emotionally invest in something I'd been avoiding, facing the ugly monster called doubt in my heart. My smile falters, and I return to the dream. The little light dimmed again, a false alarm. In truth, a truth I've been shoved to the back of my unconscious, I still struggle with the same weaknesses I always have. Insecurity sprouted from all those years of abuse among the pack of snarling and vicious hyenas. Standing in front of people and musing to myself, publicly admitting my flaws to an auditorium full of friends, family, and fellow students, my stomach flips over. The feeling wasn't stage fright. I never experienced stage fright. It was the fact that I always had to be right, and publicly showing weakness, inconceivable. And yes, that word means exactly what I think it means. Now they get it. 11th grade rolled around, junior year, the nightmare of high school. As always, I sassed adversity and rather unwisely swallowed every challenge that came my way, from extra credit assignments to National Novel Writing Month for the 3rd year in a row to solo and ensemble to pinwheel. See, I have this annoying habit of biting off more than I can chew. As winter break arrived, I found my body and mind utterly exhausted. I needed help, and I didn't know how to ask for it. The old habit of sobbing myself to sleep returned, and the stress was so bad I felt physically sick and stopped eating. For the first time in a long time, I wanted someone to lightly hug me and tell me I was doing fine, that everything was going okay. But I found pity revolting, and I didn't want to ask for sympathy. I could do everything myself. I was always the one giving encouragement, helping others, maybe a little too much, because it made me feel in control, like I was making a difference. I believed that I bore a duty to share my skills with others. After all, with great power comes great responsibility. Even though I suffered silently that year, someone inadvertently offered me a saving grace. I feel like this teacher understood how much I struggled, could see in my strained smile that I wasn't my usual self. Once again, a mentor picked me up by both arms and helped me stand on 2 feet again by nudging me towards my personal haven, classic literature, this time in the form of a medieval Italian poem titled Inferno. That year, I discovered the poet who had become arguably the most influential mentor in my life, whose vision changed the way I see the world, and whose allegorical words affected my art forever. In the dream-turned nightmare, panic fills me. I'm lost, I'm alone, and I can't seem to call out to anyone, trapped in the illusion of my perfectionism. I'm too far gone. There's no turning back for me. If I call out, everyone will sneer and abandon me. As the monsters advance, I admit defeat. There's nothing I can do. I'm relinquishing autonomy. My will for independence and success dwindles away to nothing. Yet, as these blasphemous thoughts cross my mind, a gentle hand rests on my shoulder. There is indeed one person who understands all of this and whose journey closely reflects and guides my own. This is my patron, my inspiration, my close friend and companion. I glance up at the solemn man standing behind me into the face of Dante Alighieri. Instantly, I remembered how his story began, trapped in the dark wood of fear and spiritual exhaustion, having lost the right path. Just like how he appeared to me, I remembered how the Roman poet Virgil assisted him. Yes, Sicking was right. There was a journey to be made, and not necessarily a pleasant one. I needed a reality check, and quickly. I had 1 hour to share my quest through a personal hell and get back on track. Dante extends his translucent hand to me. And so I judged it would be best for you to follow me, and I will be your guide, leading you out through an eternal place. He speaks in lines from his work. In Inferno, Virgil proposes that Dante follow him through hell, purgatory, and heaven in order to save him from making an unforgivable mistake. By this time, his own people had thrown him out of Italy, and he had nothing left. His hope, like mine, dried up like a stream in the height of summer. I needed to go with him and witness it myself, or else I might not be able to move on. Thus, I accepted.